This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by the second annual Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, which is coming up on Monday, July 10th at the Omni Interlochen Resort in Broomfield, Colorado. All proceeds from this very cool event will go to the hardworking folks over at Students for Sensible Drug Policy and Doctors for Cannabis Regulation. There will be a couple of former NFL football players there, lots of great food, and stellar networking opportunities. Also, if you have a legal marijuana business and would like to reach decision makers in the Colorado market, this is the perfect event to sign on as a corporate sponsor. To learn more about the Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational and to register as a player or corporate sponsor, just open up Facebook and search for the term Rosebud Golf Invitational. You can also find a link on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, June 7th, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 263 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is an article in the Boston Globe about a push by tobacco distributors in the state of Massachusetts to secure a monopoly on the distribution of legal marijuana. As regular listeners should be well aware of, Massachusetts voters passed adult legalization last November, and the state is now working on the exact rules and regulations for how things will operate. The Globe is reporting that lobbyists for the tobacco distribution industry are pressing the case that they are best equipped to handle the full process of moving marijuana from cultivators to dispensaries. Paul Caron, executive director of the tobacco trade group, the Northeast Association of Wholesale Distributors, said, quote, "My members are willing to collect all the taxes on behalf of the state and stamp any marijuana products being distributed for sale. Rather than reinvent the wheel, let's use the most successful, proven, encrypted tax stamp program we have, the one assigned to cigarettes." Unquote. On the other side of the argument is just about everyone else. Jim Borghesani, spokesperson for the successful Yes on 4 campaign that pushed through November's adult use ballot measure, said, quote, "The last thing this state needs is another 3-tiered commerce system that gouges consumers and enriches middlemen." Unquote. If the tobacco lobby's plan was enacted, vertically integrated dispensaries would need to first sell their wholesale marijuana to tobacco distributors who would then stamp it before selling it back at a markup. Thankfully, there doesn't seem to be a huge appetite among state lawmakers to adopt such a scheme, but it's worth keeping an eye out on just in case. We'll keep doing just that. Tom Angel over MassRoots has the news that New Jersey's new Democratic gubernatorial candidate promised to fight for legal adult use marijuana if he were to win office in November. In a primary victory speech given on Tuesday, candidate Phil Murphy said he would end the use of prisons for profit before saying, quote, "The criminalization of marijuana has only served to clog our courts and cloud people's futures, so we will legalize marijuana. And while there are financial benefits, this is overwhelmingly about what's doing right and just." Unquote. Mr. Murphy will go up against Republican Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, who also won her primary on Tuesday in the big election in November. As Tom is reporting, Ms. Guadagno doesn't support full-blown legalization, but she has made comments in the past in support of decriminalization. Either way this election falls, the state of New Jersey is sure to get someone in the governor's mansion who's not Chris Christie, and there's a lot to be said for that. Our final top story of the day is the news that Colorado has added PTSD to the list of medical marijuana qualifying conditions, marking the first time the state has added a new condition since first legalizing medical marijuana in 2001. On Monday, Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper signed Senate Bill 17 into law, adding PTSD to the existing list of 8 qualifying conditions, including cancer, AIDS, severe nausea, and severe pain. Patients in need living in Colorado could get their PTSD recommendations as soon as a week, as the state just needs to update some forms. Congratulations to everyone in Colorado for pushing that one through. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, which is coming up on July 10th in Broomfield, Colorado. This is one of those industry networking events that's worth its weight in gold, if you could actually weigh an event. With the cocktail reception on July 9th, followed by a full day of golf and then a dinner and awards ceremony on the 10th, your 24 hours will be chock-a-block with chances to meet other insiders and to get ahead if you sign on as a player. And if you go all in as a corporate sponsor, you'll have the perfect opportunity to tell your marketing story to some of the best people in the Colorado legal marijuana industry. Invest the time and money to get ahead by opening up Facebook and searching for the term Rosebud Golf Invitational. That's Rosebud Golf Invitational. We'll also throw a link up on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. All right, time for the Blitz. Turning our gaze south to Florida, we find a newly announced deal signed by Nevada-based marijuana consultancy Electrum Partners and a medical marijuana company owned in part by former Seminole tribe chairman James Billy, which plans to work to build marijuana cultivation and processing facilities on Native American-owned lands throughout the country. The two partners say they will initially advertise their services to tribes looking for insight on building out their own marijuana facilities and will focus on getting started in California. Electrum Partners' Leslie Boxcore said one of the big advantages for medical marijuana companies operating on tribal lands is the tax break they would get, saying, quote, "A Native American-owned company not only avoids the federal income tax, but the Internal Revenue Code also imposes an additional burden on medical marijuana businesses. They now have an effective tax rate that can approach 60% or more based on the application of the tax code. The Native Americans not having that as a burden gives them a tremendous competitive advantage," unquote. Swing over to the Sun Sentinel for more details on this one. Marijuana Business Daily has a good article up about the legal controversy kicked up over the case of lawyer Jessica McElfresh, who I recently reported on for being prosecuted alongside San Diego-based entrepreneur James Sladek, who she had worked with in a legal capacity. Sladek and McElfresh were charged with a number of offenses related to a 2016 police raid on Sladek's legal marijuana business, Midwest Distributors. According to John Schroyer over at MJ Biz Daily, there's a lot of talk in cannabis legal circles about the recently filed charges being brought in a spirit of retaliation by San Diego District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis, who was just on the losing end of a court case that ordered her office to return more than $100,000 it had seized through civil asset forfeiture from Sladek's family, including his two college-aged daughters. This is another good one to click over and read. Licensed Canadian medical marijuana company Hydropothecary just announced that it had tracked down the source of a banned pesticide that turned up via testing last month. The company says that an employee who is no longer working with them had sprayed without authorization 3 mother plants with the banned pesticide myclobutanil. The pesticide contamination was then transferred onto cuttings made from the mother plants, which later turned up in the results. The test was conducted as part of a spot investigation by Health Canada, who has stepped up their testing enforcement regime in recent months after being hit with a wave of contamination scandals last year. Yesterday, the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Commission signed off on the final version of the application forms for becoming one of the 32 licensed dispensaries and 5 cultivation facilities. The final application came in at 25 pages long and will ultimately be scored on a merit points-based system. The application window will open up on July 1st, with the applications going under review 90 days after that. Patients wanting to apply for medical cards will be able to submit their applications towards the end of this month, though they won't actually receive their cards until sometime next year. The city of Fontana, California was hit with a lawsuit yesterday by the ACLU of California and the Drug Policy Alliance, who allege that city leaders are illegally thwarting the will of the people by imposing overly restrictive laws meant to counteract the progressive reforms mandated by Proposition 64, which legalizes adult use marijuana. According to the DPA, the mayor and city council even went as far as to boast that their laws would be the most restrictive in the state and that they hoped to dissuade people from growing cannabis at home. We'll report back on any progress here. Former London Metropolitan Police Officer Brian Paddock just published a good op-ed in Time magazine calling for his country to legalize marijuana. This is a good one to click over and read. And finally for today, the Denverite has a good piece up about the efforts made by Ricardo Baca, founding editor of the Cannabist, in helping his fellow editors at the Denver Post scheme to get prospective hires around marijuana drug testing mandated by the company, going as far as to share links to stories he'd published about how to get around a drug test. Baca didn't stop there, though, making the case to the suits in the executive suite about why they should stop drug testing. Whatever he did, it worked because, according to an editor at the Post, they no longer conduct pre-employment drug testing for all newsroom positions. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJTodayDaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, the Laurel Rosebud Golf Invitational, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.